I bet even my most loyal fans are wondering oftentimes why I concentrate so heavily on the subjects that I do. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more about myself. I made another video with a bit of a biography. As I said before, it's regrettable that people are not woken up to the underlying corruption of the United States government and society and just everything about it in general, unless something really devastating happens to them and they have this intense desire to know why it happened. If you feel like you were a direct victim, as if somebody had you in a line of sight. Well, me, I have been hit by about everything. I suddenly lost my parents. My father, I thought he was fine. He went through some hard surgeries on his knees and then heart surgery. And he was a guy who looked young when he was 55 years old. But this took the life out of him, these surgeries, and he aged real fast and gained weight, and he just was confused. He was always an energetic, motivated man. And my mom, she was sick for years, and when she told me that she was going to have heart surgery, I was really afraid. So I thought I'd lose her on the operating table. But she pulled through it fine, and actually was doing great. Even on day 10, they let her stay in the hospital a little bit longer than usual, and she could walk around, she had some energy, but it was mandatory that she go to a rehabilitation place. Now that's when the trouble began. Well, long story short, the insurance company has a lockdown on what they'll approve, what places they'll approve. The hospital, you can usually go to what hospital you want, what doctor you want. When it comes to the rehabilitation or the supporting services that are still mandatory, that's where they get you, and with the medicines and different services. The rehabilitation place was this horrible combination of a nursing home and I don't know what. The rehabilitation part of it was just so messed up. They didn't hardly have any staff, and they had so many sick people there that were constantly ringing the nurse's light, and people were confused. It was dirty. But the primary complaint I had was there were very unskilled people working there, and many of them were from Mexico, and they were given these jobs, and you knew that they could hardly speak English. There's no way that they were qualified to be there. And the whole point of this, the insurance companies are conglomerates that own these different places and administer them. And it's all, they get tax breaks by doing that. There's all kinds of reasons for it. And the doctors that work there are just the most, if they transplanted Frankenstein's brain and cloned it and put it back all in their heads, that's what you're dealing with. Well, long story short, I lost her because of real negligence. She just suddenly went catatonic, suddenly her health went down. They didn't do anything. She lost 30 pounds in no time. And I had to pull her out and bring her to a private place for recoup. And it killed me. It cost me $4,000 a month. But I couldn't let my mother die. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I just went to another place like that, because the insurance company would only that was like the best place out of 4 choices that they would approve of. There was a second one that they would approve of, the exact same type of facility. It was right next door. You went in one or the other and you wouldn't know the difference. And this was horrifying. So I lost a lot of money for that. Then this is personal stuff, but then I got hit with an IRS issue. I got a letter in the mail saying that my stock account had been garnished, which meant that I couldn't have access to my money, I couldn't do any trading. And the IRS said, you know, you've been ignoring our requests for communication. So I go down to the office and find out why. They had been sending the attempts for communication to the wrong address. It was my street address, but the wrong zip code, because the street that I live in goes a very long distance, and it goes into 2 different towns. And that I can't believe they couldn't figure out the problem, or it was done on purpose. Point is, that going to them and telling them that that was a mistake, it didn't work. They wouldn't take the garnish off. They wanted me to jump through these hoops of resubmitting my tax records, and this was for a discrepancy from 9 years ago. And I just thought my rights had been violated, or that I had no rights to begin with, and I just refused, you know. And it didn't matter. That's the account that I used to pay my mortgage. So all of a sudden my life was in jeopardy. That's how I made money, was doing day trading. And no matter who I talked to, the Department of Revenue at the state or the federal IRS office, nothing. They're like, you got to do this, and it's going to be a 2-month procedure. So it was going to be like 2 months before I could get my access to my money, or if they wanted money, they were going to take a big chunk of it. From the calculations that they were sending me, it looked like they were going to take it all once you added the fees on. So it just wouldn't have been any point in complying with it anyway. My point of all this is, there's other things I could tell you, but you have things like that happen to you, and you suddenly are invigorated with an overwhelming need to find out, how did this happen? Who is behind all of this? You know, I had known some stuff about the IRS and, you know, the insurance scams and the horror stories that the people talked about, but I started to look into it. And that, combined with all my interests in, you know, government crime in general, I just became immersed in studying everything. And as I'm sure you can empathize. What I learned was just shocking. And that's why I do all of this, really. I feel like I'm only halfway done, but I'm appalled at what I know, and I realize why so many people don't know. There's so many things in place in the media to keep you totally dumbed down, and, you know, it's like total, you know, running interference on everybody's mentality. An educational system is just totally a farce. But, I don't know. Trying to educate people on this, they've got to get, I don't know if it's possible. I mean, most people only find out about this when it's too late. I don't know if it's too late for me, but I know what I want to do with my life. I'm grateful that I'm finally educated, I'm finally aware. And now I'm trying to make you aware too.